Hello there, and welcome back to Utility Sports. In today's video, we are going to be doing a first round NFL mock draft. If you are interested in a really good deal, go ahead and punch in Utility 20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Once again, our code is Utility 20 if you have any interest in getting a great deal through Manscaped. So we are going to go ahead and jump right into it. With the first overall pick, I have Jacksonville selecting Kayvon Thibodeau, the really exciting edge prospect. Since the start of the year, his name has been thrown in that number one overall pick discussion. Why? He has that rare blend of speed, power, and a really, really good combination of pass rushing moves, good against the run. Really, really key for this Jacksonville team. They desperately need that opposite of Josh Allen. And I can't imagine if they had this pass rushing duo, it would be a really, really tough day for a quarterback. I love this selection for them. There's also a need at that offensive tackle spot. So that is something you can consider if you are them sitting at number one. But right here, I like Kayvon Thibodeau. I love his upside, and it could be a really, really great match for this team. Now looking at pick number 2, we have the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions are in a really good position here, wanting to desperately improve that front seven. How can they do that? You look at a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson is a really, really polished pass rusher. We saw it this past season. I mean, he was absolutely dominant against Ohio State. Big key in terms of their success. Him and David Ajabo, absolutely an elite pass rushing duo. Aiden Hutchinson, he's been a big riser this year. He deserves to be in this top 3. And I think for the Detroit Lions, they would be really, really happy to keep him in state. So Aiden Hutchinson goes to the Lions, and the Lions, who are already building a really, really nice roster. And they're just at the very start of piecing this together. This could be a scary team in the next couple of seasons. Moving on to the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans have to really, really rethink, what they're doing. It's going to be a new era for this team. I have them going with Evan Neal. I looked at him on tape, and he's super impressive because not only does he have the prototypical size you're looking at for an elite offensive tackle, he has great athleticism, phenomenal IQ when addressing stunts, does a great job communicating with his other offensive linemen on who they're going to take. And I love this for the Houston Texans. I think this is, great upside move. You're getting that franchise tackle for whoever the next quarterback is. Obviously, the whole Deshaun Watson thing is still up in the air, but they're going to be able to acquire other assets in a deal with him. So I do think that this is the correct move. You're getting a franchise tackle, a phenomenal player at a premium position. It's really tough to pass that up at this point in the draft. So at number 3, that's where we go. At number 4, we have the New York Jets, and the New York Jets are really going to be looking at that edge spot potentially. I know there are some Jets fans that believe they don't need an edge. I think when you look at what George Karlaftis can bring, he's one of the most powerful offense or defensive linemen in the entire class. You look at how he consistently wins with power, really will bowl right through you. And he's honestly one of the best defenders in the draft against the run. Really, really crucial for the New York Jets to keep improving in that area. So George Karlaftis going here to the New York Jets with a little bit or pretty good pass rushing upside. I think this makes a lot of sense. Robert Saleh, a lot of his plays predicated off of defensive linemen. We've seen that in San Francisco. I think that's going to continue here with the New York Jets. George Karlaftis going number 4 would not surprise me at all. And I think that's something they're going to be strongly considering on draft night. And now we make a transition to the other New York team. We have the New York Giants. Now, the New York Giants definitely are going through a transition as well. They're looking at that offensive tackle spot. I mean, they selected Andrew Thomas, and he played pretty well this year. Now you look at a guy like Charles Cross, who is a phenomenal pass blocker, one of the best in the entire draft, really, really smooth in his technique. And I think when you look at the New York Giants, it's important to really give Daniel Jones this final year potentially of, can you be that franchise quarterback? That's the direction they're going in. And I think getting an offensive tackle is huge. They tried to address some of the playmakers last year through the draft and free agency. Now they come back and select a guy like Charles Cross. And you have 2 nice tackles on this team. They're, kind of working that offensive line. I love this for them. And the New York Giants are in a really good position here with their draft selections. At number 6, we have the Carolina Panthers, and I have them selecting Ike Ekwonu. It's really tough to decide. Do they go quarterback? Do they go offensive line? I think offensive line is huge for them. Once again, this is a team that they're trying to figure out their true identity. They have a couple of playmakers on the offense that are super impressive with DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, but you follow that up with a pick like Ike Ekwonu, arguably the best run blocker in the entire class, a guy that is a true road grader. And he can get to that second and third level. He's just that kind of offensive lineman. You will see him down the field blocking and springing huge runs. I think for the Carolina Panthers, it's tough to decide. Do you want that quarterback? Do you want that tackle? But, trying to build the overall structure of this team, they got to address that line, especially the tackle spot in particular. So that's why I have them going here at number 6. Number 7, now you have the New York Giants again, and we have them coming back to select David Ojabo. Now, David Ojabo is one of the unsung heroes of that Michigan defense, a guy that didn't get as much credit as he probably deserved. One of the top guys in the nation at forcing fumbles, really, really good as a pass rusher. Against the run, he's getting better and better with some true upside there as well. So the New York Giants in this draft, they're able to address the trench play, and I think that's absolutely huge for this team. Could get a potential premier pass rusher in this league at number 7, just because of his upside that he brings. And if you are the New York Giants, to me, you have to be super, super excited with what you can do with your picks. They were not expecting these selections to be this high in the draft when they made that trade last year with the Chicago Bears. So number 7, David Ojabo, I think it's a good fit schematically. I love that for this defense. Now we're at number 8, and this is a guy that continues to fall down a couple of people's boards. And I think this is one of the most talented players in the entire class. It's Derek Stingley. I mean, if we take out his injuries, this is going very likely would have been for sure a top 4 pick as a lock. He slides a little bit, but with his overall athleticism, he's one of the best athletes in the entire class. Really good man-to-man guy. He has good ball skills. He's the true package as a corner. Not the best tackler. I think that's, where you can maybe knock him a little bit. But when you look at true coverage skills, this guy is the premier guy in the draft and what he brings to the table. The Atlanta Falcons, you put him and AJ Terrell together, that is a dynamic playmaking corner duo for this defense. And I think it's really big for Atlanta to continue to improve on the offense or defensive side of the ball. On offense, there's definitely some question marks as well, but you're kind of looking at this through the scope of who's potentially the best player available. And they get that with Derek Stingley at a premium position, mind you, as well. And now we have the Denver Broncos, another guy, when you look at the overall, who is one of those better players available, that's Kyle Hamilton. I mean, he very well could be a top 4 player in the draft when it's all said and done. He plays the safety spot. He's 6'4", rangy safety, good tackler, a lot of versatility for what you can do. He's kind of a chess piece. You can move around significantly. And the Denver Broncos have done a really nice job with this rebuild. Trust me, I've seen some of the development, their draft picks they've hit on. Surtain was absolutely huge this past season. And now they add an elite guy in the secondary like Kyle Hamilton. Great value for the pick. I love this for the Denver Broncos. They're definitely moving in the right direction. So Denver, you get yourself a good one in a guy like Kyle Hamilton, and everything he can do on the football field. It's scary. It's truly scary. I love that there for them. And now we turn the page here to the New York Jets. And this is a new one. I have not been mocking the New York Jets, a receiver. That's Garrett Wilson. I'm extremely high on what Garrett Wilson can do at the NFL level. After rewatching his tape over and over, he is a strategic and lethal route runner, a guy that is just so explosive off of his cuts. And also, once he gets the ball in his hands, he is so hard to bring down, super slippery, super elusive. And he's also a true hands guy. Not every ball is going to hit him in the chest. He can extend his arms out and make those tough catches. I love Garrett Wilson. I think that he would be a dynamic player for this Jets offense. You consider Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, and Corey Davis when he comes back. That's a very, very good trio for Zach Wilson to work with and to develop with. So this is one of those new ones, guys. And this is why you want to be subscribed to the channel, is because you have a lot of change up like this happening through the course of these mock drafts week after week. At number 11, we have the Washington. It's not even the Washington football team anymore. It's the Washington Commanders. We have Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett is one of those quarterbacks that was a late bloomer, has a breakout final season at Pitt. Super productive. He was efficient throwing the football. He looked good. So there's a lot to love about what he can bring to the table. In terms of Washington, they definitely need a quarterback. And for them, they don't have to rush right into it. They can go ahead and select Kenny Pickett, feel comfortable sitting him on the bench for one season. But I think it's time for them to address that QB spot. They've built really good infrastructure around the quarterback in terms of what they have at some of the skill positions and the trench play. I love this for the Washington Commanders. At number 12, we have the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings, one of those key needs is going to be that corner spot. And we will see, what direction they want to go. They could potentially look at that linebacker spot too. There's some really great athletes there. With the absence of Anthony Barr, they might look that way. However, it's that corner spot that to me is really concerning. They've tried it over the last couple of years to select some guys, just quite haven't got it right, but this is a new regime. It's a new time in the Vikings era. So they're going to go ahead and select Ahmad Gardner, a true cover corner. He's one of those guys that's underrated. Every single mock draft you look at, I just think he brings so much to the table in terms of his ball skills as well. Doesn't let anybody get behind him, keeps everything in front. And I love that for the Minnesota Vikings, getting a true cover corner at pick number 12. And now transitioning into number 13, pick I had made last week, and I stick with it. It's Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks out of Arkansas, 6'3" frame, right? He's almost like a running back when he has the ball. Super tough to bring down, thicker frame. And when you look at what he can do after the catch, it's really incredible. And sometimes when you're evaluating some of these receivers, you have to consider what they can do after the catch. Ultimately, because, that's where some of those, those big plays happen is from that. So Treylon Burks to the Cleveland Browns. I think it's important that they, don't ignore the wide receiver position. Jarvis Landry is a terrific guy in his own right, but I think they need a little more on the perimeter there. So Treylon Burks, good frame, good catch radius, also really great after he catches the ball. So he is the pick at number 13. Number 14, DeMarvin Leal from Texas A&M. And when you look at him and watch him on film, there's so much to like about what he can bring from a versatility standpoint. The Baltimore Ravens love guys that can move around, do a lot of different things. That's what he can bring to the table. He wasn't as productive as a lot of us thought he would be this past season with A&M. However, I like what he brings to the table, that versatility. He's so strong with his upper body as well. And there's a lot that he can improve on in Baltimore. I think it's going to get done. He's going to become a really good player at the NFL level. And the Baltimore Ravens just need some more help along that defensive line. You can put him on the interior. You can have him, rushing off the edge. There's so much that you can do with Leal. Baltimore's getting a really good player here at 14. At number 15, we are addressing that cornerback situation. That's Kyrie Elam out of Florida. You got the nice 6'2" frame, long arms, can really press you at the line. And if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to consider where you're at, because there's so much that they can do with these selections, a lot of different ways you can go. But to me, it's really important that they look at that corner spot. Super important. And they can really complement it actually with that next pick, because I have them going with Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from Utah. He's been gaining a lot of momentum on my boards. After watching him this season, he's super impressive. There's so much he can do. He's also, underrated against the pass as well. Does a nice job in coverage, really flexible hips for his size. And I love this for the Philadelphia Eagles. You address two levels of that defense. You get the linebacker, you get the corner. He's kind of that total package you're looking for at the linebacker spot, which is huge. Philadelphia has not historically drafted linebackers in that first round, especially over the last 10 years. So this is kind of more of those outlier picks according to, where they've been at draft history wise. But to me, he's too talented of a player to let up, and you have to go ahead and select him here if you are at 16. At number 17, this is a guy strictly selected because of where they're at contract wise. If a deal isn't done with Mike Williams, I think that they found a perfect replacement in Drake London. He's 6'5", tremendous catch radius, a guy that will literally snag anything, kind of like how Mike Williams was this year. He is going to bring that. The huge frame, not the fastest guy in the world, but a consistent target. He was a high volume guy at USC, so it wasn't like he was just consistently a red zone threat. He got the ball over the middle of the field. There's a lot of different things he could do in this USC offense, even with the different quarterbacks that he had. Him and Keaton Slovis had a really nice connection, especially early on. So Drake London is going to be my pick for the Chargers. They have to make sure that they're able to replace that production, especially if they do lose Mike Williams, who's going to be getting a lot of money in free agency. So we'll see how that all pans out for them. And now number 18, this is the first time I believe I have mocked this. Malik Willis from Liberty. I think when you look at his overall skill set, it's incredible from what he can do from a rushing point of view. He also has a really strong arm too. That's something that people don't maybe realize about what Malik Willis is as a prospect. There's some accuracy issues. However, the same concerns were true for Josh Allen coming out. I think with proper NFL coaching, a little bit more development, this is a scary dynamic athlete that can be a really good quarterback in the league. And I think the New Orleans Saints would be willing to take a chance. Their franchise is kind of in a transition. There are some people that think Jameis is the franchise guy moving forward. Potentially he is, but I think Malik Willis sitting here is a really good opportunity to get a talented player at a premier position. And it would be scary to see what that offense could look like with Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and a guy like Malik Willis. So kind of an interesting upside pick there. However, it's possible that they don't even look at that spot. Now here at number 19, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. I have them selecting Tyler Linderbaum, a really consistent center out of Iowa. And I bring this up, it really depends on what happens with Kelsey. He can play center. He can play guard at a very high level. So you can move him along that offensive line, really depending on what happens with that situation. But I think the Philadelphia Eagles are in a great spot with these picks. They were able to address, some of their huge needs here. And Tyler Linderbaum, you look at it from more of a value perspective because he is a really good offensive lineman. So selecting him here to me makes a lot of sense. Philadelphia Eagles get so much better, especially after this first round. And, they're not done in the draft. There's so much more to go that they can improve on. Now at number 20, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they are in a position where they have to look at that quarterback spot. They've kind of had their hand forced. They didn't really necessarily have a plan. They thought Mason Rudolph could be that eventual successor to Big Ben. That, to me, I don't think is going to happen. Or if that is the case, if he is that successor, I think they want to have another guy in the fold, potentially. Matt Corral is that quarterback, a quarterback that has flirted with, that top 10 in terms of our mock drafts. I actually don't have him going that high. I think the injury might bump him down a little bit, unfortunately, whether it's truly warranted or not. Really interesting prospect from his combination of a pretty good arm, also a pretty good athlete in his own right, something that's a little bit underrated about his game. Lane Kiffin really loved him at Ole Miss, and I think he's going to be a successful starter especially if he lands in Pittsburgh that has great infrastructure around him. They can make some improvements along that offensive line, but he would be landing in a really good situation with a talented running back and a collection of talented receivers. So, and also you have Pat Freiermuth as well. So really good collection of guys to throw the football to and, to run the ball. I love this for Pittsburgh. Now, the next pick we have here is at 21. Partially due to an injury, you have Jameson Williams fall to the Patriots, and the New England Patriots need some dynamism on that offense, in my opinion. Are they going to be willing and patient for Jameson Williams to get healthy? I think so. I truly believe they would be. I love this for the New England Patriots. I think that you can get a guy that truly takes the top off of defense. One of the best athletes we've seen in the last couple of years. And unfortunately, due to that injury, we don't know where he'll be at athletically, but I think it's going to be pretty close to what he was. So overall, I love this for the Patriots. You get a dynamic receiver at 21. Following that up, we have another receiver going, Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, there's a number of different ways that they can go. We're not exactly sure what way they're leaning, but Chris Olave from Ohio State, super impressive on tape. A guy that is a little deceiving in his speed, does a great job taking the top off the defense, always is seemingly open when you watch a lot of those Ohio State games, he's always just wide open at some point. And that's what, you can really bring to the Raiders. I think they're going to be looking for another pass catcher, especially with what happened with Henry Ruggs. Now you go ahead and select a guy like Chris Olave, can bring a little bit more of a deep threat presence to this offense. And that's something they most certainly need. So once again, a team in transition. Josh McDaniels heading that program there. I love that for the Raiders. At number 23, and this is kind of the elephant in the room, I think they need to address that corner spot. The Arizona Cardinals are, in a really good position this offseason to make up for some of the weaknesses that they do have on the roster. Andrew Booth Jr., good man-to-man guy, could step in right away and be a productive corner, especially when you're in the division that you're in. It's super, super competitive, a lot of good quarterback play, and the Arizona Cardinals here are in a good spot. I think that selecting Andrew Booth Jr., he slides a little bit in the mock, but you take advantage of that. And to me, him and Byron Murphy would make a really nice corner tandem for the next couple of seasons. So I love this for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray's going to take another step up next year, hopefully. And there's a couple of ways you can improve this roster. And to me, you have to look at addressing the defensive side of the ball. So Andrew Booth Jr. goes to the Cardinals. Now we are at 24, and we have the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are a really, really tough team to pin down on what they're trying to do, because I could see the angle of them potentially taking a safety or a corner or even a linebacker. But I think they look at Kenyon Green and the fact that he fell this far, and they could get behind this idea. Really, really talented in the run game. He's a phenomenal athlete for his size. And the Dallas Cowboys, they might take advantage of this. I think, once again, I think it's very possible they'd look at those other positions I had named prior. However, they look at it from a value perspective. Dallas is really great at drafting for value. Sometimes they don't care if it's a positional need or not, and they just select, typically what the best player is. We've seen that in years past, and it remains true here. Kenyon Green going to be a really, really good guard. And you look at what they have on that offensive line, that would be terrifying. Really, really terrifying. Once again, solidifying themselves as one of the best offensive lines in the league, which is already true now. But you add a guy like Kenyon Green, and you extend that reputation a little further. Now we look here at 25. We have the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills got some really good play out of Levi Wallace this year. Tre'Davious White is also still on this roster. And then you go ahead and add a guy like Darian Kendrick, probably the most underrated player defensively on that Georgia Bulldog defense. One of the best of all time that we've ever seen. Part of it was the transfer Darian Kendrick, a guy that was a first-round selection probably last year, ends up staying and then transferring over to Georgia. I think it's very possible he finds himself at the end of the first round, considering what he can bring in coverage. Very, very sticky man-to-man guy as well. Love this for the Buffalo Bills. I think he's going to fit very, very nicely with this team. And I love this, as an overall fit. Now, looking at number 26, probably a guy that you guys have not heard much of. It's Trey McBride from Colorado State. Trey McBride was a 1,000-yard tight end. I believe he had close to 10 touchdowns during the year. Good athlete, really good hands. And the Tennessee Titans were missing kind of that element of the Jonnu Smith from years prior. Trey McBride burst onto the scene this year, the number one tight end in the class. I think they would be willing to take a chance on him at this spot. You're always looking for pass catchers, especially at the end of this first round. And the Tennessee Titans take advantage of that. And they select Trey McBride, one of those more unsung and unheard of prospects that probably is going to continue to gain steam as we get closer to the NFL draft. Following that up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The franchise is kind of in limbo. They're not exactly sure what they are at the quarterback spot. There's, contract issues. Chris Godwin very well could be on his way out in free agency. And, when you look at it, Bernard Rainman is going to be my selection. When you're having to cut money at certain places, I think you have to look at that tackle spot. Donovan Smith makes a pretty good chunk of change, and this really allows you to potentially cut him, open up money at other spots. There's a lot of different things that you can do, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are probably going to be looking at that tackle spot very, very closely, because you have to consider where can we save money to really open it up. I also definitely consider receiver at this spot. With the absence of Chris Godwin, you have to have somebody to throw the football to. Mike Evans can't be a one-man show. They drafted Jalen Darden, who could be a developmental receiver, but they definitely need a little bit more on this roster. Tyler Johnson definitely saw his fair share of struggles, especially towards the end of last season. So I'm not exactly sure where they stand and how comfortable they are with their receiver room either. Now we have the Green Bay Packers at 28. Daniel Falele, 6'8", like 385 pounds. He's all man. He's a phenomenal prospect in terms of his physicals. He's a developmental guy, especially against the pass. I'd like to see his footwork improve a little bit more. But, at pick 28, sometimes you have to take some big swings on prospects. They ended up doing that with Eric Stokes. Now they do that with Daniel Falele at that tackle spot. Him and Bakhtiari could be, one of the best tackle duos in the league if they can figure out how to truly mold this guy as a player. So I love that for the Green Bay Packers. And at 29, Miami Dolphins, Trevor Penning from UNI, another prospect you probably haven't heard a lot about, but when you are the Miami Dolphins, that offensive line is going to be a priority. I think that's pretty clear. The Dolphins don't want to go into the offseason, going into next season, without having another tackle that you feel comfortable with. And I think Trevor Penning could be a very, very solid, steady option for them heading into next year. And I love this for the Dolphin roster. At number 30, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are tough to pin down what they want to do. I think it's going to be defense. You could consider wide receiver. I think they might wait on that until the later rounds. I think they might look at the corner spot or the safety spot, potentially even linebacker. A lot of different ways you can go, but with a player like Roger McCreary still on the board, it's tough to pass him up. I think when you look at this Chiefs team, they have to improve in that secondary, especially at that corner and safety spot. And, I like this for them. Once again, another good man-to-man guy, fits in with the system, and the Kansas City Chiefs are trying to get back to the glory, right? They're trying to make it back to the Super Bowl next year. And it's unfortunate, but in this league, you got to have some cover corners. When you're facing the Buffalo Bills, the Cincinnati Bengals deep into these playoffs, you have to be ready for that. And here they are. That's exactly what they do. They're going to address defense this offseason. At number 31, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. I have Darian Kinnard going from Kentucky. The Cincinnati Bengals offensive line has been atrocious this year. It's truly amazing how far they've gotten with their offensive line being as bad as it is. Testament to Jamar Chase, the other playmakers on that team, Joe Burrow especially. He's the guy that directly is impacted by that pass rush that Cincinnati allows through. They have some guys that are worthy of keeping, especially like Jonah Williams. Jackson Carman's another one they're going to be keeping around, but they have to get another tackle, in my opinion. That's Darian Kinnard. I definitely help out this team in the long term. And I would be shocked if they didn't take a lineman in the first round of this draft. And now finally, we have the Detroit Lions, and I have Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean is the absolute perfect blend of fit schematically and overall value at pick 32. To me, it's really tough to see them, not really address that front seven a lot. I think that's what they're going to do. Nakobe Dean is a dynamic athlete. He's a guy that can punish you through the hole. And looking at what they bring defensively, they need a little bit more nasty. So looking at it, Nakobe Dean could be a phenomenal fit. He's great value, a guy that very well could have went earlier in the draft. He could have even went potentially in the teens. I could have saw Philadelphia as a potential fit for him. However, slides all the way to 32. This is an A+ level pick for the Detroit Lions. I think it's phenomenal for them. And then finally here, thank you everybody that was tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you are new. Also, please leave a like if you do enjoy NFL draft content that we produce. Work very hard on it week in, week out to give you guys the weekly mock. So thanks again for stopping by, and we will catch you in our next video.